Okay. Okay, so I got all the names on. So welcome everybody to Tag Contributor Strategies monthly contributor growth working group meeting. This meeting's going to be a little ad hoc, as I said, because our two working group leads are both out on vacation. But I think we have stuff to talk about anyway. This is an official meeting of the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and as such, it is subject to the CNCF Code of Conduct. Also, the meeting is being recorded and will eventually be posted on YouTube. So if you happen to say something during the meeting that you need to have edited out, please contact me right after the meeting. So with that, let's go around and do some introductions, because we have some people that I don't know have been to this meeting before. You may have when I wasn't attending, but we'll see. So my name is Josh Burkus. I am co-chair of Tag Contributor Strategy in the CNCF. I also work for Red Hat in the open source practice office. And I'm also on contributor experience in the Kubernetes project. Dawn?
Yeah, so I am another co-chair of this tag. I work at VMware where I do open source community strategy. And then I'm also involved in lots of other things like the to-do group and Open UK, amongst others. Rian.
Hi, I'm Rian. I work with Hippie and his team at II in New Zealand, and we do all the dirty dishes around the CNCF and all the projects that need help. And Hippie, your way.
I'm Hippie Hacker, and I'm with II, a group of folks that have been working on strategic initiatives for the CNCF for a while, most recently focusing on mentoring and community infrastructure. Noah, on to you.
Apparently I need to come off mute. Hi, I'm Noah Abrahams. I'm over at Oracle as a TPM working on contributor enablement and onboarding. So I'm here because it is the most appropriate place to do that. And I'll pass it over to Kim.
Hi all, there we go, there's video. I'm cooking breakfast, so I'm gonna go back off video when we get done, but hello. I talked with Josh about this at Scale and just wanting to get more involved with the contributor stuff. I am also at Oracle, which is just surprising. Both Noah and I are here as the head of community. So I'm looking forward to learning more about this group and how, really more how I can personally contribute. Thank you. I need to kick it over to somebody. G.
Hi everyone. This is Jay. It's my first time to attending the contributor strategy working meeting. I mean, I'm pretty excited here, and currently I'm involved in multiple CNCF projects, mainly focus on cloud event specification. So I feel so happy to be here and do hope I can make more contributions to the working group. Yeah, that's how.
Well, welcome everybody. So with that, we will actually get into the business of the meeting. And like I said, we have a pretty open agenda today. So if you have something you specifically wanted to discuss, go ahead and add it to the agenda. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and get started with community infrastructure.
All right, I'm Hippie Hacker, and one of the initiatives that we work on for the CNCF is the community infrastructure. I think we're working within this tag to create a new working group for community infrastructure so that across all CNCF projects, we can come up with some beautiful starting places and templates and best practices and collaborate between the projects to come up with new and innovative ideas. One of the things that I've seen a lot of requests for is PROW, particularly the way that it interacts with our our issues and our PRs. Prow is a very complex and beautiful thing that provides a lot of testing and CI jobs as well. And we might look at that at a later thing, but I figured to scope things down to something reasonable. I think most people see Prow as the visible face of Kubernetes. When they open up a ticket and it says, ah, yes, there's some steps you should follow, here you go. And that's defined in some Golang code inside of the Kubernetes test infra repository under the Prow folder. Now, Prow has lots of components, but the one that interacts directly in response to things on GitHub is called Hook. And Hook normally runs as a long-term service inside the Kubernetes SIG-K8s infra cluster that's managed by SIG testing. That service is configured to respond to all of the beautiful events happening on GitHub and the different responses that are there. However, outside of the Kubernetes community, it's a bit of a high hill to climb to get all of the infrastructure and resources needed to run a Prow instance. GitHub Actions is providing a way for people to, in any project, just add some simple YAML underneath their .github workflows folder that defines basically a container and a set of steps that runs in response to events. And it hands the same JSON file that gets handed off with all the beautiful things about the event to Prow, Hook, into an action. What we've looked to do, Rian, can you look up the ticket and drop it for me? For that Rob's working on. Inside test infra, there is, I think it's 1173. That issue talks about taking the hook and rather than running it as a daemon, running it as a one shot. So it will consume that JSON file with the event and run the appropriate handler or Prow plugin. We're very close to having that up and running, and I'm looking forward, hopefully by KubeCon, to be able to start helping the community absorb that and see if it's where the edges are. Within that issue, you can see that one of the concerns is the number of GitHub API calls per hour. Currently, there's a limit of about 1,000 events per hour for, I think, for the entire actions for either an org or a repo. So I'm asking if there's a way around that. The reason we want that is because we would prefer if there was zero configuration and needed to add more secrets. The other issue around doing the secrets is adding permissions. And we've been researching how to have the permissions provided where no unknown code gets executed. Most of the time when we check out a repo, we do a lot of work on it, but there's actually some ways to configure GitHub Actions to just do it on the base branch for PR, so we can go ahead and respond to comments and things without running untrusted code with a token that could obviously write to comments and everything else. So I'm excited that this initial stake in the ground for Prow GitHub Actions is getting close. I'll stop on that one for a minute so we can kind of discuss Prow and GitHub Actions.
Somebody who has the issue, if you can link that in the notes. And I guess my other question is using owners files something that we can even conceivably do with GitHub Actions?
I think Hippie's frozen. I think we lost Hippie.
Okay.
It's the merges, we have to look a bit further. Go ahead.
So we lost you. We didn't hear anything after Josh asked you the question. So start your answer over. And now you're muted.
I'm on Starlink. And so and the location I'm at right now, there's a tree. And so when the satellite is by the tree, I lose it for a moment. I'm so sorry. I should dial in on audio on the phone. But the question was around the owners files. Yes, that's one of the primary instigators for this is the owners files. And Blunderbuss is one of the first ones we're targeting to just test to make sure it works because it doesn't really require a lot of other things.
Okay. Well, when we have something we really want to try, like I said in a previous meeting, a good way to really try it would be to use it with the tag contributor strategy repo.
Okay.
And see if we can start using it to
Absolutely.
approve issues and merge PRs.
I will keep abreast and updates from Rob as we work on that, and I'm pairing with him a couple times a week to push that forward.
Cool. Okay. Does anybody have anything else on? And by the way, because we've got a bunch of new people here, as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, but this effort, the community infra, is one where we are actively recruiting new contributors.
Absolutely.
People who can help and work on it.
I think we still have the community infrastructure group is still overlapping with this meeting. We don't have a new meeting time yet, I don't think. So when our friends come back, we can look at pushing that forward a little more. But within this, for this initiative, we are coordinating via the channel for right now, the tag contributor strategy channel, until we create this community infrastructure. We have a CNCF-CI channel, I think, where things were there initially, but I'm a little concerned around the naming of things and how CI has an overlap with what other people might hear. So
yeah,
probably need to come to some closure on that and move forward with contributor. I like what you said earlier, contributor infra.
it would. I mean, actually, honestly, I think that name would make it very clear what it was targeted at. Because one of the problems with like having a channel called something like community infra on CNCF is people would think that you were talking about, say, Bevy.
Right.
On that channel. And so you just have a lot of people joining the channel for the wrong reason.
Well, and even community managers tend to refer to things like Slack and mailing list as community infrastructure too. So I think I like contributor infrastructure a lot better because I think it's a little more clear.
Okay. Yeah. If we're all right with that, I can go ahead and create that channel, and we can refocus that there as far as the initial conversations before we have the meeting times.
Maybe sync up with Carolyn when she gets back from her holiday.
Absolutely.
First.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. If does anybody have anything else on community/contributor infrastructure?
One of the other initiatives that we have is our pairing and coding environment that II uses called pair.sharing.io. And we put up an LFX mentorship spot for someone to come through and work on us as we look to bring that forward from being a terminal environment to having something like VS Code. And so we have code spaces that is available from GitHub now, but it's limited to different plans, and also isn't a cluster, it's just a container. And so I'm meeting with the head of, it's Craig Peterson, I think is his name. He's the GitHub human over code spaces. And so I'm going to meet with him tomorrow and Monday to talk about bringing some of those features in. So there's two parts. One, I'm excited that we have some mentees to choose from to help coordinate some of this initial bringing of that contributor infrastructure forward. But I'm also excited to talk to GitHub about the about org mode and the files that we use to have
And the tree again.
Yep. Boy, this is not selling Starlink for me, I have to say.
And
It is a good spot to freeze.
sorry. The funny thing is, none of you freeze. It's just me. I am excited about pair and the mentees, like being able to get a mentee into that, and also to talk to GitHub about helping to integrate that into workspaces. Without either of those happening, we're going to be trying to take coder.com. So Coder allows you to define a Kubernetes cluster or some other infra to point at bringing up workspaces that run VS Code, but also run other development environments. So we're trying to, in this, can you drop that issue, Rion? For pair or the LFX?
Quickly.
Yeah, so there's this. Within CNCF mentoring, we have the LFX, and under LFX mentorship for this particular 2022 for September, I'm just clicking on the docs to get down there. We have our contributor strategy. Got that handy somewhere where the chats go. I believe that's the one. And then this is the contributor strategy submission for the LFX mentorship. So there's two parts. So I'm looking forward to reviewing the mentee applications. But that issue 173 is what we're going to work on to be able to, instead of the current infrastructure, be able to focus on cluster API. So anyone that has the ability to provision a cluster can use those brought up clusters as the environment for VS Code and all of their development to run in, so they can develop cloud natively in a real Kubernetes cluster with working ingress with VS Code initially, but then bringing some of our other stuff over. And one of the first steps we're going to do is not just make a cluster, help Coder use cluster API, but also see if we can't target vCluster and KubeVerse so we can overlap and have people, one, spin up things very fast so people quickly get a Kubernetes cluster, but also have isolated clusters and do it across existing clusters that we can bring up for a day or two and bring down as far as empirical clusters underlying multiple people's working environments.
I wonder what's the overlap there with this project and some of the work I've seen from OpenShift from within Red Hat. I don't know if, from what I recall, they were working on something like this, but I don't know if it's very tied to like the OpenShift platform, or if you can like reuse some parts of the existing, like what they already built, or do you know if there is overlap there that we can take advantage of?
I'm not sure which thing you're specifically referring to, so I couldn't tell you one way or the other.
Let me see if I can get some.
It sounds like, Alexander, you might be talking about something to spin up clusters quickly, or are you talking about the coding environment that sits on top of the cluster?
Yeah, so Red Hat has the it's OpenShift. It's a platform that spins up like I think clusters as well, but it's like built upon Kubernetes, and you can like you have a user interface that you can like use
I think CodeReady
plugins. Yeah, something like that. It's something like that where you can have like a dev environment just spinning up within Kubernetes cluster, and have like pods being the dev container that developers use. I don't know what's the maturity of that, but
it'd be worth. I mean, it's mature. The thing is that I'm not sure that the full sort of stack experience, and importantly, spinning up a local cluster, is available for generic upstream Kubernetes, or whether it's just parts. I could go ahead and ask, because the other question would be whether or not that's appropriate, whether or not that works in a remote environment, because CodeReady is designed to integrate with an IDE for development. And so I'm not.
Yeah, so if you can,
Yeah,
because if it's connected to the IDE, if you can use some parts of it to connect like to VS Code, and then have some way of having that remotely. From the research I've done, it's like a year old from what I did that research, so I don't know where it stands right now, but they were talking about having some kind of remote stuff there as well. I don't know the status of it, because yeah, it's been some time since I've seen it, but yeah, maybe worth like asking what is the progress there, and if they can share some learnings and or not, so we can use that here.
One of the things that this is in a large response to, I think Don mentioned it on the stream that we did recently, that getting the developer workspace environment to a point where they can contribute as quickly as possible helps us have a model for doing harder things later. But those first rungs of the ladder need to be level to the ground for everybody where they're at. And I think being able to click, like if a repo's had an area that says click to contribute, and it spins up their GitHub username dot the GitHub CNCF org for that dot the CNCF.io or something like that. And that's what we're trying to get to, is click to code inside of a Kubernetes cluster that you can invite someone else to do it with you. And it's the way that each of those is configured per project can be customized, because different projects have different approaches. But my main goal here is to not have them required to install anything locally, and to actually have them working in a Kubernetes cluster with working ingress within seconds. And so anything at this point for this particular style of approach to trying to get people to work together to install local stuff feels out of scope, just for this piece. Now, hear me, this stuff that we bring up is a real Kubernetes cluster. So there's no reason you couldn't immediately turn around and run VS Code locally, or run Emacs locally, or run any IDE and connect to it via the various ways that you would connect that code. But I'd love for the entry point to be absolutely straightforward, easy, where heaps of people are making videos about how they got started. I just want to make sure I didn't, because I don't know enough about what you were asking about, Alexander. So this is mainly context. It's not to go to, I would love to, in saying that statement, I'd love to hear more about your thoughts.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just mentioning this CodeReady stuff that OpenShift has, just because it seems similar. I don't know if they have anything for like bringing contributors to a already existing and created container. So maybe that's a part that's would be missing from that, but they have like some infrastructure to get the usability and user experience stuff, to get like just click here and you were able to just, I don't know if that's only the vision or if they are already got there, but the vision was to be something like you're saying. So you click here and you get the whole development environment for that project, so that you can just start contributing, and you don't need to think about like linting tools or like any formatting stuff and not. I guess that's all open source. I'm not sure. we would have to like look and see if there's anything there. But that there are some projects that have the vision as well that we can probably like try and get some pieces to reuse and whatnot to make them like easy to maintain if we bring more people into this. But I don't know. I would have to look more into the progress of those projects and the like the scope in which we want to get to the pair stuff that you're talking. So we can take a look. But they like it's similar to what you're talking about, having like this dev environment like ready and whatnot. And then there's more there's other projects like they have these I can't remember the names now, but I can get them to you. They have like dev online dev environments that you can sort of create the template for the project, and then you just click and you get like a whole ID for yourself for the project using the preferences you set. I just don't remember the name. I can get that for you.
Okay. Well, we do that. We have okay. Are we done with contributor infrastructure then? Until Alexandra looks up the thing that he's looking up. Okay. I'm going to actually skip ahead to Noah's item, the non-code contributor guide, just because I think that'll be shorter than mentoring, which will probably run us to the end of the hour. So, want to go ahead?
Yeah, mine is simply a waving the flag, as it were, that the non-code contributor guide, which is currently under Kubernetes, as I've mentioned in previous meetings, we are resuscitating the guide with the goal of making it a little bit more generic and bringing it possibly over to this tag as opposed to simply existing within the sake of one single project. And I'm currently actively recruiting for that. If you are interested in contributing to a non-code contributor guide, ping me on Slack. We've got a doodle up right now that is currently very US centric, but I don't know exactly who's interested, so that might change. That's all.
Okay. You want to drop some links in the notes?
Happy to.
Cool. And it would be useful from a contributor for a contributor strategy to actually have something on contribute.cncf.io that explores in more detail how to recruit people to non-code efforts. The and you know how to design programs to get people started on contributing things that aren't code. Okay. So, oh, and if you could, including in links, if you can link to the existing Kubernetes guide. Okay. So with that, let's move on to mentoring.
I'm calling in over the phone to Zoom just in case
Yeah.
satellites go by. Apologies if the audio isn't that great. I haven't gotten the audio configured as I would like it to be. On the mentoring side, I have some slides. If you give me just 1 second to find them real quick. Here. Jay Tahima is our man on the ground working to create the mentoring initiative in New Zealand to onboard more people to contribution. Here, this is the slides. And would it be all right if I shared my screen? I'll drop the slides,
Go for
I
it.
believe, as well.
Let's see. Hold on.
Apologies that he's not here today to kind of present this rollout, but it is quite early in New Zealand. Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can wait until the next mentoring meeting if you want.
Okay, sorry, I thought we were.
Yeah, no. It's here. I just, I saw all of you folks on here, and I assumed we were going to discuss mentoring at least briefly.
Okay.
But if you have something that's not quite ready yet, then you can wait for the next mentoring meeting.
It's just a kind of a roll-up discussion of where we're at.
Okay.
And what we've kind of observed. So I will share screen 2. Is that working?
Mm-hmm.
Slideshow. Pardon the cue there. I think I added that. It's kind of a progress report for where we are. Trying to figure out our stakeholder engagement and the things that we've had some issues and barriers with, some strategies for approaching it, and some new initiatives. And now that I'm kind of digging into it, I might be good for him to present this. On the structure of the tag, is it similar to the SIGs and the subgroups for rolling up, or do we cover these things in the subgroups alone?
It's kind of flexible. We'll cover what we have time for, and what's of interest to the people who are in the meeting at the time. So
I think without digging into this and let him bring it back more fully, probably just focus what are their needs, just this one little column. The things that we experience, so we can kind of talk about that at a higher level. There's a notice there of a prevalence of burnout, and there's a high talent attrition rate. So people come in and burn out and then they leave with space. There's a lack of key data and insights to help us action and the information, the infrastructure needs to support that. So the steps that they take, and we're talking about this ladder of contribution, trying to make sure it's the first rung super low, and not enough data to help us decide where those points are. There's a bit of a lack of consensus and clarity or recommendation on the right entry points. When we first started, I said, let's go to the cloud native the KCNA, which the network associate, which seems like a pretty lower level, but it actually has lots of prerequisites. If you follow the time in hours, it's like 60 to 80 hours of prerequisites before you start studying for the KCNA. And so trying to figure out where our different entry points are and helping to make sure that the pathway progression is a bit more clear to contribution. There's the collateral and onboarding process, and the collateral material is another area that's been difficult to pull together for the team there, as well as there are the intensive conditions for many, and I think some of that is around the amount of. I have to actually ask on that one. The intensive conditions for many is another maybe it's cultural differences there. But I wanted to just make sure that we kind of brought this up here so we can think about it. So when the next time we have some time with Jay, we can talk about it together.
Okay. Sounds good. And the next mentoring breakout meeting is Tuesday after next, I think.
Yeah.
So, okay. We'll have more full in there. It's fun. Can you pronounce the new name of the initiative for me?
Let me go back and look at it again. Kupenga.
Okay.
The
Thanks.
other one was a little longer, and the trend, when he was checking with people, the translation wasn't accurate enough. So this is shorter and more spot on.
Okay, awesome. So is that it for mentoring for today?
I think so.
Yeah. Actually, one other thing I'll say is I believe LFX applications are still open. So
They are?
Yeah, I believe today's the last day, if I recall.
Awesome. Well, please apply.
Okay, does anybody have any other business for the meeting today? Which includes any requests for help getting, recruiting contributors for particular projects, or anything else.
I guess there's just like an update that I'll give on the next tech strategy, contributor strategy, more general, but I can give you some progress. We had some ideas last meeting about having like a contributor board, like job board thing, and doing some matchmaking between maintainers and potential contributors and mentors and all sorts of stuff, but we are still ideating in that. I created the issue that's probably gonna be we got some feedback from Paris around that, and I'm taking a look at some suggestions and whatnot. That's probably be for the next like a couple of weeks. I'll have more information and more progress for that, because I'm actually organizing an event here in Brazil, a hackathon. So I'm actually tied up in time organizing that. But after that, I'll be more focused on that. And then there's the other one that's a survey that we had some ideas with Catherine and whatnot. She actually brought it up in the channel. If anyone has any like ideas of questions for surveying contributors and maintainers and whatever, so we can better understand their problems. And
let me bring up the draft for that. Yeah, so this will be the first general CNCF contributor survey, I think, in years. And so we're actually working with CNCF staff on, I'm gonna link that to the notes. We're working with CNCF staff on doing that. I've been working on some of the questions myself, but I would really like to have, or we'd really like to have, part of our broader team suggest questions and things that might be interesting to look at. Particularly to acquire new knowledge that was not some things we asked about on, say, the previous CNCF contributor survey or on Kubernetes contributor surveys. So so please take a look at the doc there and suggest other things that we could ask. And even if it's just an idea, right? Even if it's just a stub. I mean, a lot of those questions are kind of fully formed and have options and stuff, but you don't need to start from there. You can throw in a potential question and say, hey, it would be really cool if we asked about this, even if you're not quite sure how to phrase the question. Among us, we have a couple of people who have a lot of expertise in surveys, and so they can take that idea and make a good question out of it. So please share your ideas and suggestions and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think we'll have to also do some like direct engagements with some folks that we think maybe may have some useful feedback. So
Okay.
if there's anyone that you might be someone that has like anything interested to contribute there for like questions or suggestions, we may be able to directly engage and ask if they can like drop in and just give some suggestions. I don't know who might be like good some good people that may be
Well,
able to do that, but
I'll have some people on the survey formatting end of things with direct expertise. But yeah, in terms of questions, I don't know. I don't know if there honestly is a lot of expertise even in existence on how do you survey project contributors. If anybody knows somebody who somehow has done a lot of this, then their input would be extremely welcome.
I guess I'll try searching for like some active contributors and just reach out like on GitHub or in any way to try and get some more feedback there. Maybe LinkedIn or whatever they use. Don't want to be so aggressive there, but it's probably a good thing to have some people that actually are within the contributor side and not just us and asking like maybe ourselves and our group, trying to reach more and more people so they can bring more questions and ideas. We can would probably be helpful as well. I'll try doing that this week so we can get those up.
So when would be the deadline of the survey stuff? I mean, when would the survey stop receiving, let's say, questions or suggestions there?
We haven't set a deadline yet. That said, I think we would probably want to get it out before KubeCon Detroit.
Okay.
Particularly that way, a member of the CNCF staff could promote it on stage at KubeCon Detroit and get better. Because after we devise the questions, which is going to be hard, the second hard part is making a majority of contributors aware that the survey exists. And so being able to promote it from the main stage at KubeCon would make a huge difference. So so yeah, I would say we probably want to firm up the questions within the next 3 weeks, given that.
Sure.
Yeah, the first when we talked last time, we thought of having like some pieces before having the final work and like more. We can I think we can get most of it done before KubeCon and then iterate over it and because it's like we would probably have something online for the survey. We can actually change based upon like feedback after KubeCon and whatnot. But I guess the main piece would be for the KubeCon, and then we can iterate over it, receiving feedback and whatnot. And
Okay.
but I don't know. Is it? I guess it's 3 weeks from now.
Well, that's what I was thinking of. Like, if we wanted to have it ready for KubeCon Detroit, then we'd need it final. Because I mean, things like this will be an official CNCF survey, and so they'll need to check it over, including probably legal. So I can't think that having the questions ready any later than mid-September would work for that.
Especially given how busy CNCF staff is
Yeah.
leading up to KubeCon, and it just takes time to review everything and get the survey built out. And we don't want to put them in a spot where we're trying to ask them to do something and rush it last minute.
So
I have a comment. I was looking at the survey, and there's, as we all are talking about, there's a lot of different types of contributors, which is one of the reasons I'm here, because I'm one of those different ones. And I think that if you're like a marketing contributor versus a documentation versus perhaps a test, you may have different issues or feedback for how the contributor experiences. So maybe build it out saying, hey, I'm in marketing and I'm going to answer as a contributor to marketing things. And then say, do you want to answer questions and testing, or do you want to answer questions on, another area, for example, because you're going to get much better data that way. And I have built surveys like that before, where you can say, do you want to answer questions on another area? And you can check a box and you'll go directly to that section. So it's just one suggestion I have.
yeah,
Sorry to throw a wrench in your survey.
yeah. Well, no, but right now we don't have any questions that are specific to type of contribution.
I guess that will probably be when we start categorizing them. I guess right now they are random, but that it is great that when we actually do the survey, we separate them for different kinds of. Is that your suggestion, right? When for the survey, separating the questions for who specifically to ask.
Yeah, and they could be the same questions, or you could have like a same basic questions depending on role, but then you could also have a specific question. Like with events, I try to volunteer at KubeCon and they always say no, or whatever, So I think it's going to be easier for you all to, to review the data. And looking at some of these questions, I'm like, what are the major friction points? They really don't apply to somebody like me, right? They don't, because I'm coming from more of a marketing event community contributor rather than a code contributor.
I guess wording it differently to get the data for different categories. Like even if the core question is the same, you can word it differently based on the terminology and whatever is most used for that. Because I think for some questions we just have to word it differently. Some of them we would probably have to like think of other ways of asking, but yeah. Great feedback, by the way. Thanks
Sure,
for that.
sorry to throw a wrench. Just a thought, and maybe it won't work on this, but anyway.
If you could, I mean, like, you have access to the doc. If you could, like, grab a piece of a page further down and actually type out the sort of workflow that
Sure.
you're thinking about,
Yeah.
that would be really helpful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Are you,
I'm happy to do that.
are you in Slack as well?
Pardon me?
Are you on Slack on the CNCF
Yeah, I'm on
Slack?
Slack. Yeah. Yeah, I am. Kim McMahon, my name. So I'm on CNCF and Kubernetes Slack. And I'm in the tag contributor channel as well.
All righty. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah. I
We'll
used to work.
probably reach out to get more of that.
Sure. I used to work for CNCF and I did the cloud native survey every year. So we never went through legal, but I guess maybe it's a different world now, Josh. So
Okay, I mean, I would say, it's just, I would kind of assume that you would, just because,
oh, I have no idea anymore.
you know, we need to make sure that they don't think that any of the questions we're asking are discriminatory. So,
Oh, and that may be true. I mean, the world has
Yeah.
changed in 3 years. So
the
And Josh, do you have any? Is it the legal people that reveals if it's discriminatory or if implies any legality issues and or not? Or do we have to? Can we have someone guiding us before the final draft?
I was gonna
Or
say,
is it just the final draft?
realistically, probably not. And legal folks are only gonna be checking for a couple of things. They're not gonna care about most of the survey. Hopefully the marketing folks that we're already engaged with are gonna care more about the survey. So yeah.
Yeah, because there are some words that we can. I don't know if it applies. Right now, I think it still applies. Like there are some words that we better avoid because of the war stuff and whatnot. So there are some, like at least from my experience recently, there are some questions that we have to word differently because of those conflicts and the other stuff happening around the world. But yeah.
yep, absolutely.
Okay. Well, again, please suggest stuff. I mean, particularly if you think about it, is that we'll probably do this, and then again, there probably won't be another contributor survey for, you know, a year or more. So we want to make sure that any questions that we really want answers to get included.
And what's just to make sure I understand, I do see, you know, to understand contributor friction points and how to address them. Is that really that's the biggest goal of the survey, is to find those friction points so changes can be made? I mean, is there other goals that y'all have that for the survey that you would like to get? Because there may be questions you can put in there. So
Well, as I understand it from, and I wasn't part of the meeting that decided on this effort, but as I understand it from the previous contributor growth meeting, was mainly because a lot of projects come to tag contributor strategy looking for help building up their contributor base. And they're actually pretty clueless as to why people are not contributing. And so getting and obviously it varies by every individual project. But there's also going to be some general trends, you know, across the CNCF, and currently we don't know what those are. And so it's really helpful to be able to tell projects, you know, hey, we don't know what your individual case is, but look here first.
Yeah, I mean, this really gives us some data that we can use for what new resources we need to build and how we, you know, how we can put things together to help projects that are more than just, you know, us deciding that people probably need this resource and creating it. But having some data will allow us to actually, I don't know, have a better approach to deciding what we create next as a tag for the projects to use.
super, thank you. I'm adding notes. I started a new page. Anybody feel free to Kim's thoughts to add them in there, and I'm just making some notes as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
one of the focuses is that as well, that we want to understand like why non-code contributors are engaging so much with some projects, and how to better communicate and engage with those contributors, because everyone has value and like can be a grateful like resource to become a contributor and improve projects besides doing only code. So I
Mhm.
guess one focus is that as well, understanding how to communicate and how to engage with like non-code contributors.
Okay. Do you, and I know we're at time, I just actually was putting this together for the community work, and kind of the whole concept of community personas versus what kind of developer personas you have was really kind of mind-blowing to our team. And so, I mean, do you have, would that persona information maybe help? I mean, you have your user persona, you have your content persona, you have your internal developer, et cetera, et cetera. I'd be happy to share my notes on what I put together, because maybe even identifying or agreeing on a set of personas for contributor work might then also help us make better plans. So, okay, well, I'll add it. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Dig
absolutely,
it out.
100%.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. See you all on Slack and next week.
Bye.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.